real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky. FPK, Future Proof Knowledge Podcast.
Future Proof Knowledge Podcast, episode 27, and we are live, and it's just little old me today. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, Sean Mills, has been struck down by a virus, so everyone please send him your good wishes and get well soon. It's not like him to be unwell, so when he has to say, I can't make it, you know, it must be serious. Anyway, I hope everybody has been keeping well. Sorry I missed last week. I was busy with my hands in the dirt trying to build up some new avenues that we could get FPK University and FPKX into the hands of the people who need it most. So Sean took the reins, as he has done in the past, and done an exceptional job. So what I wanted to do today, though, was carry on where he had kind of finished off, because what I loved about last week's conversation was, or last week's topic, was this idea of entrepreneurship and neurodiversity knitting in together. And where I wanted to kind of take it further was to explore how we can view things differently. And I think we're looking at, let me rephrase that. I think young people are looking at employment and careers and jobs in a very different way to maybe previous generations. So I suppose if I think about it, like my grandparents' generation, they would have very much been, you know, get a job, good pensionable job. If you could get a job in the civil service, that's good going too, because, you know, you're a civil servant, so you're not getting sacked. But that would have been very much the view at that stage. And it was, you stay in that job. If you can get promoted, great. But if not, don't leave the pensionable job, because, you know, you got to think about your future. I'll come back to thinking about our future in a minute. But what I kind of felt was that, or looking back, it was quite restrictive. So people would then retire, and then all of a sudden they're like, what do I do now? And if you hadn't got an interest, like, you know, if you weren't volunteering, or if you weren't, you know, if you didn't have hobbies and stuff like that, a lot of people just kind of faded away and waited for death to come upon them. And definitely over the last kind of 40 years, so probably my parents' generation would have been the first ones who started to kind of go, oh, hold on, it is possible to change career. And for some of those, maybe that was forced by the economic crash in the early 2000s. So I know a lot of people who had to change career because the careers that they were in were gone. There was just no money in it at all. Like, you couldn't earn a salary. So they had to kind of change it up and look for something different. But they were the first ones that, and I suppose it probably coincided with the everyday use of the internet. So I remember being in college, and, you know, when the internet was kind of coming out, and it was great. Like, you'd go on and there was these things called chat rooms, or you could interact with people that you were that were like celebrities and stuff like that, and everyone was just kind of figuring it out, and things were very slow, but, you know, you could meet people and become friends with people all over the world. And you could, like, for me, when I was in college, I would kind of do lots of searching for bands. I'll tell you what I used it for most in college. And like, we're lucky now, you probably wouldn't get away with it now because they monitor everything, but like guitar chords and sheets with guitar chords, that's what I would just do. I'd just print off, like, my favorite songs, guitar chords, and I'd just go home then and play my guitar for hours and kind of try and learn all the songs that I loved. And that was great. But I suppose there was no real e-commerce or anything like that, or there didn't seem to be businesses on there. And the businesses that were on the ground, they didn't think about it necessarily, or they were slow to look at it. Or the opportunities to actually generate income online were very different back in the mid 90s. So then things started to shift, and then we had a dot-com bubble in the late 90s, early 2000s, and all these companies were worth millions, and then boom, they were gone. Probably what's going to happen with a lot of AI companies too. And they like then we went into, but like businesses were starting to go online. Then they were starting to see that there was an opportunity to get more people seeing what you were trying to sell, and we were kind of starting to get a lot more awareness of the world around us as well, in terms of, in real time, things were much faster, which was great. And then all of a sudden the economic crash happened, and that was really, really difficult for millions of people across the world. Like, the people didn't know what was happening, they lost jobs, they lost their homes. So it was a very scary time. But with both of those coinciding, it presented opportunities, or forced people to look for opportunities to go and build new careers. And that kind of set a precedent. And I suppose if you think about it, it's only 20 years ago, so it's not that long. Like, it's a millisecond of a blink of an eye in terms of the world. But it's had an impact of, then my generation being able to come along and go, well, I can change career tomorrow. And then the younger generation going, I don't need to do any of the traditional careers. I'm going to go and do this career over here, which wasn't around 20 years ago. So I suppose it's good. But some of the challenges for young people, especially the young people I would work with, would be that there can be there's too much opportunity, where they don't know where to focus their attention. And because of the TikTokification of the world, everything is immediate, and videos are immediate. So if I'm interested in becoming, I don't know, an architect, and I go and study at university, I can get bored pretty quickly. And it's like, yeah, this isn't for me. And then I go on to the next thing that I think I'm interested in, and very quickly go, yeah, this isn't for me. And the next thing isn't for me. And they slip into this cycle of just not being able to complete things and finish things. Sorry, not that they're not able to. They are not used to having to commit to something in order to see it through over a longer term, because everything is so immediate. So I have a lot of empathy for young people now trying to build careers or decide what kind of careers. And the fact that you can change is great, but it's also a bit of a curse, because you can change maybe a bit too early, just when you might have been so close to kind of going boom in terms of your progression within the career. But also what's changed is the structure, and I think it's really going to change over the next little while, potentially, where, the average job will be 35 hours a week, 40 hours a week, the average job, give or take, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever. And younger people are going, I don't want to work Monday to Friday. I kind of like the idea of doing a 4-day week or a 3-day week. So that's changed. The challenge for them then comes with, okay, this is what I want. I enjoy my time off. I enjoy my hobbies. And I'm only going to do a 3 or 4-day week. But unfortunately, the cost of living is increasing significantly. So that means that a lot of young people are trapped in some ways at home, or feel trapped living at home with their parents. And look, it doesn't matter how much we try, even the best of us, to recognize that our adult children are actually adults and they can make decisions for themselves and they can come and go as they please, we still fall into those patterns of this is my house, my rules. And children like adult children can respond in a kind of, well, shove your rules up your ass, I'm an adult. But I still need you to provide me with shelter. And for a lot of adults that I work with, food and clean laundry. So it's kind of like we're in this kind of weird dynamic at the moment. But I loved Jay Sean talking about how we can encourage those neurodiverse young people to tap into I was going to say qualities. That's not right. That's not what I want to say. To utilize the experience they've had of having a particular neurodiversity, whatever that might be, and use it to their advantage, as opposed to seeing it purely as a negative difficulty, learning difficulty that means that they can't achieve what the typical person achieves. So I was kind of doing a bit of digging around and looking and going, we can all point to, whenever we talk about neurodiverse people who've been successful, we always go straight to Richard Branson and Elon Musk as the two kind of poster children of neurodiversity and business success. And what I want to kind of focus on is less them, them as people, but more on what it was about their experience of neurodiversity that helped them to create the range of different businesses that they have done. So, okay, most people will know Richard Branson as the creator of Virgin. And Virgin have had music shops, airlines, everything, everything. I remember when I was much younger, Richard Branson, I thought, did he actually just I can't remember if he circumnavigated the world in a balloon or something like that. I'll have to look this up. Balloon flight, there we go. Now, what did Richard do? So, a long-distance hot air balloon in the late 80s and early 90s with pilot Per Lindstrand setting several world records, including first transatlantic flight in 87. That's what it was. And the first trans-Pacific flight in 1991 in a hot air balloon. Who turns around and sits there and goes, I know what I think I'd like to do. I'd like to go from Britain to America in a hot air balloon. Well, lots of people might say that, but how many people will actually follow through? Anyway, Richard Branson has created lots and lots of businesses, and he's, in fairness to him, he will openly come out and say, for all the successes I've had in business, I've had a hell of a lot of things that didn't work out that I wanted to do or I thought were going to be really successful. But he talks about taking the learning from those things not working out and bringing them into the next venture that he gets into. And obviously, I don't know Richard Branson, but I've read bits and pieces from him over the years and listened to him being interviewed. And I think when he talks about, what has always struck me is that, we're taught in schools, essentially to think linearly for the most part. Not every class, not every teacher, not every school, but for the most part, it's quite linear. 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3, and that just follows that same pattern. And obviously, as we've discussed many times on this podcast, neurodiverse people's brains kind of go all over the place. They don't just sit in one space and follow this linear path. And I think it is that beauty of having the ability to think in a different direction. Because when we think in a different direction, then we start to view things from a different perspective. When we view things from a different perspective, then we can start to get different pictures of things, because like we all believe the world that we see in front of us is the reality. But if we were to move things ever so slightly, and I'll tell you, the perfect example of this was on at the weekend, happened at the weekend. Okay, the perfect example that I'm going to give happened at the weekend. So Manchester United were playing Arsenal in the Premier League on Sunday, and I am not a fan of either team. So I had no skin in the game, but Manchester United's second goal, scored by Patrick Dorgu, it was a cracking goal, in fairness to him. He let the ball bounce twice and then he lashed it into the top corner away from the keeper. Brilliant goal, absolutely brilliant. And then, I don't know, for like many of you don't follow football, there's a thing called VAR, video assistant referees. And VAR is the technology that checks every single goal to see, was there a foul or was there a reason to not give this goal in the build-up to the goal being scored. So VAR reviews every single goal. And the VAR review started to take quite a lot of time. And I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans coming out and go, he handled the ball before he took the shot, so the goal should not have stood. And that was, I think that was that for Man United to go 2-1 up, I think. And from the very first angle I saw, it looked like he'd handled the ball. Like, it looked like his hand was down by his side, and that's going to be whether, there's a question around whether that should be a handball or not. But anyway, the ball looks, from the angle that I saw it, that it brushes off his hand and then he goes boom. So by the letter of the law, technically it probably should have been disallowed. And if we all take that one angle, that one view that everybody saw first, I mean, that is the single source of truth, well then, it wouldn't have been 2-1. Manchester United probably wouldn't have won the game. Or they're less likely to have won the game. So then they show a different camera angle. And from that different angle, now, it looks to me pretty clear that he actually didn't handle the ball at all. That the ball went past his hand, but didn't touch it. Is that the truth? Lots of Arsenal fans will say, absolutely not. That's definitely not the truth. But it shows that when we think or view things from different perspectives, we can get a different view. And because we live in a world now that makes us entrenched on either one side or the other side, and we can't move from either of these polar opposite positions, then people become unwilling to look at, well, is there this view, or this view, or this view, or this view that makes us view things slightly differently and actually changes our opinion or our perspective of the given situation. Where I'll see it a lot in working in groups, and say groups who've been in difficulty, challenges or whatever, is someone will say they treat me this particular way. And then the person that they're talking about will go, no, I don't. Now, I'm not saying either one of them is right or wrong. What I'm saying is they both got polar opposite um, views on the same situation. And then when I actually sit down in the middle of the two and get both perspectives, there's actually truth on both sides, but there's also mistruths on both sides, or not mistruths, misunderstanding on both sides. And when we've got misunderstandings, when you get that third perspective of someone going, well, what about this? It is amazing how many times with the people I've worked with where the conflict just disappears. It's just gone because they haven't been told that you're wrong or you're wrong. What they've been told is, yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying and I completely understand why you have that perspective. But from me sitting in this midway point and listening to both of you, I'm hearing this perspective. And usually that perspective in the middle probably has a little bit of both in it, which both sides can kind of buy into and kind of go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense, which then allows them to be a bit more open to viewing things or understanding the other person's perspective. So there is always the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th, 12th, 100th different type of view. And I think that's one of the things for me, listening to entrepreneurs over the years who are neurodiverse, is that they see a problem or they see a way of working or they see an opportunity and go, well, what if we did it this way? I wonder, would that work? And one of the things so another person who I listen to quite a lot is Stephen Bartlett. He is from the UK. Well, I think he's actually originally from Africa. But anyway, I could be completely wrong there. But anyway, he grew up in England and he has spoken about having ADHD and how he sees his ADHD as a superpower because what it allows him is to hyper focus on something. Now, I have no doubt that presented tons of challenges in school or growing up because if you're hyper focusing, then you're just ignoring everything else. And sometimes those people with that super, super hyper focus, they'll ignore eating, sleeping, bathroom breaks. They're so invested in this. And he will talk about how that ability to do that has allowed him to create the businesses and have the success that he's had at a very, very young age. But the thing I admire most is, no, not admire most. The thing I find very interesting from a psychological perspective is the element of difficulty that a lot of these entrepreneurs experienced growing up because of their neurodiversity. So feelings of failure in school, getting into fights, getting in trouble at home, not understanding how to do things in work, forgetting to eat, forgetting where things are, losing jackets, losing school bags, losing keys, all that kind of stuff. Like that, all those things create friction for these people. And it's not that they are misbehaving, it's just their brain is operating in a way that doesn't follow the typical linear fashion. Because it doesn't follow the typical linear fashion, they will seem like they're being argumentative. They will seem like they're being, that they're ignoring, or they're being intentionally forgetful. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Sometimes it obviously probably does. But because of those challenges they experienced at a young, pivotal stage, they then build up resilience that can then align with their hyper focus, make them go, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway because I want to. And they have that self, they have that drive inside them to go, no, I need to make this work. I need to figure this out. I need to get this solution. And they push and they push and they push well beyond when most people probably would have given up and gone, yeah, this isn't going to work out. And like I said, those experiences are at such a pivotal time and stage in a young person's development, a child's development, like between the ages of, say, 3.5 and 7. And I can't remember if I touched on this before. We take on beliefs about ourselves and beliefs about the world around us. And the reason we take on those beliefs is so that we can be kept alive, that we'll be loved, that we'll be fed, we'll be taken care of. Somebody will make sure we can survive. And before kind of 3.5, we're kind of, we were the center of the universe. We're the center of our universe. I think all of us are probably the center of our universe. But anyway, we're the center of the universe. And, you know, when we were toddlers, if we cried, we got fed, we got changed, we got put to bed, right? And then we go to play school or kindergarten or primary school or whatever. And all of a sudden, not everybody is letting us do what we want. So the teacher doesn't let us run around the classroom all during class. The other students don't let us play with all the toys and dictate everything to them. And that makes us feel insecure. It makes us feel unsure. It makes us worry, not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. How can I survive? And they're in transactional analysis psychotherapy. They talk about the drivers, and there's 5 drivers. There's please others, be perfect, be strong, hurry up, and try hard. And those drivers encapsulate all the beliefs that we could take on. And we can have a bit of all 5 drivers. Some of them will come out in different scenarios, in different situations, with different people and different experiences. But usually we'll have 1 or 2 that will be kind of our strongest drivers. So the first driver we'll look at is the please others driver. And actually all the drivers will have positive elements. So with the please others driver, if little Alan does everything that everybody wants him to do, then he knows he'll get love, he'll get attention, he'll get affection, he'll be taken care of. So then throughout his life, little Alan finds out all the evidence and recognizes all the moments that where he does something for other people, where he does what they want him to do, and he gets positive feedback. So he goes, this is the way forward. If I do what other people want me to do, I'll be loved, I'll be taken care of. Which then makes him a really nice guy as an adult. And all his friends will say, Alan, go ask Alan, he'll do it for you. But the problem for Alan is, when he's under stress, he'll say yes to this person and 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 this person. And then he puts everybody's needs up here and puts his own needs down here. And ultimately that's going to get too heavy of a weight because we can't do everything for everybody. And he's going to feel terrible because he feels like he's going to let people down. And then his friends will say to him, Alan, you need to put yourself first. But if you've got a please others driver, you're never putting yourself first, because putting yourself first feels selfish. And feeling selfish to a please others driver is literally the worst feeling in the world. So as an adult, how he can counteract that driver is to make his needs equal. Not put himself first, but make his needs equal. Take care of himself so that he can then take care of everybody else. It makes it much more manageable. Now, in reality, that's going to fluctuate from time to time because that's just the way the world is. But that's the please others driver. Then we've got the be perfects. And they're the people who are brilliant. They work hard, they will achieve, they'll and be successful. The problem is under stress. They'll feel like their best is never good enough. They're the people who can get like 95% in an exam and be absolutely devastated because they didn't get 100. Even though everybody else in the classroom is going, what are you complaining about? We all got 60. But they start to self-criticize. I'm not a good enough son. I'm not a good enough daughter, mother, father, employee, friend. I'm not good enough. And what they do is they set a bar for themselves that they would never expect anybody else to hit, but they will expect it of themselves. And it's so interesting to hear a Be Perfect talk. It's like, yeah, but Alan, like, it's hard to, not talk negative about myself. It's hard to not criticize myself when I don't do well. Like, is it hard to talk yourself up and say you've done very well? Yeah. Okay. Both pretty much the same thing. One just makes you feel crap. So how you counteract that is to recognize that your best is going to be good enough. And that's going to change on day to day. So say today for me, my Be Perfect driver is brilliant. And every client I work with here is like, it was the best session ever. Alan was amazing. And then I'll go home and I'll see my children and they'll be looking at me going, you're the best dad in the world. And then I go into my wife and she's there and she's like, how did I get so lucky to marry a man like you? And I go to bed going, yeah, I knocked it out of the park today. I killed it. And then my next door neighbour's dog starts barking at 1 a.m. and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And I get no sleep because I'm up at 6. Get out of the bed, stub my toe off the corner of the bed. I'm like, it's going to be one of those days. Go down the stairs. I'm a bit tetchy. But everybody else is a bit tetchy because none of them have slept. And I go in, we all have a good big row, a good big argument. And my kids go off to college and school upset, and my wife goes off to work upset, and I come in here and I sit down, and the first person comes in, and they go, Alan, I've got problems. And I go, oh, you think you have problems? I'm going to tell you about my problems. Right? But that's the best I could do on that day. I'm absolutely wrecked. So we have to recognize that we're never going to be on top of things all the time, and it's going to fluctuate. And as soon as we acknowledge that it's okay for me to not be as good as yesterday because of extenuating circumstances. I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm frustrated, whatever might be going on. Then we can get closer to going, right, today this was good enough. It's not the best I'm going to do forever, but for today, it's good enough. Then we have the Be Strongs. And they're the people who are brilliant in a crisis. So imagine we're all sitting down having a cup of coffee in the cafe. And the place goes up in flames. And my Be Strong driver kicks in and I'm totally calm. And I get everybody out and everybody's safe. And people going, geez, Alan was amazing there. He didn't even flinch. Then Alan gets into his car and he's like, oh my God, everyone could have died. But he's never going to show his emotion because society teaches us that emotion is equal to weakness and none of us want to feel weak. But actually, what can happen then with the Be Strong driver is we push our emotions down and we push them down and we push them down and we push them down. So much so that we actually get disconnected and we don't even know how we feel. Sometimes people don't even feel. And then what happens is somebody spills milk or somebody looks at us funny and we go boom and we lose it. But when we go boom, the pot that we've been shoving all the stuff into empties. And then we just go right back to filling up with all the other crap. So how we counteract the Be Strong driver is to recognize our emotions. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be annoyed. It's okay to be angry. It's what we do with it that's important. Okay? So it's important to recognize our emotion. And it's really important to remember, you don't have to show the world. So if you do have a Be Strong driver, you don't need to walk out into the world bawling your eyes out going, I'm just fighting my Be Strong driver. But acknowledge it for yourself because that's really important. And then look at what can I do? How can I manage this anger? How can I manage this frustration? What do I do? And this is where we can be candorous. You don't have to be shitty to somebody else But you can talk about it in realistic terms and go, look, this was disappointing. I know you probably didn't do it on purpose, but it was disappointing. And you can have that conversation. Now, how they react, you've no control over. But that's how you counteract the be strong driver. Then we've got the hurry ups. They're the people who are very speedy and efficient. So in the positive state, they'll have a deadline of Friday, job will be done on Wednesday. But instead of sitting back and going, I can relax for 2 days, this is fantastic. They're like, what's next? Give me the next job. Give me the next job. The next. And you'll see them, right? Because they'll be the ones who be like, I can't even stop and talk to you. I'm so busy. I'll see you there. Bye. And they're gone. And they're breathing up here. And this is where anxiety lives. Short, sharp breaths. So how we counteract the hurry up driver is to recognize that it's okay to take our time. If you do a good job, you can, or if you do a job, it's okay to rest up so you can do the next job. But you don't have to do it today, or you don't do it tomorrow. You don't do it straight away. And then we've got the try-hards. And this is where I'm linking this in to the neurodiverse discussion. So the try-hards, and I'm not saying everybody who's neurodiverse has a try-hard driver, but the try-hards are the people who I find most interesting because I spent a lot of my career working with try-hards because lots of teenagers have try-hard drivers. So they're the people who will tell you how hard they're trying. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to do my homework. I'm trying to work hard. I'm trying. And maybe not actually doing it. Now, they're the ones who will persevere, right? If they are into something. So if I'm into dinosaurs and I've got a really strong try-hard driver, I'm going to sit watching dinosaur documentaries all day. I'm going to read about dinosaurs all day. I'm going to watch movies about dinosaurs all day. All day. I don't want to be distracted by that maths. I don't want to be distracted by that geography. I don't want to be distracted by that history. I don't want to be distracted by any of that crap that teachers trying to tell me or my parents are trying to show me. I just want to see dinosaurs. So they will be into it. And if you've got someone who's a try-hard driver, they can sometimes be known as the charming manipulator, where I'll go, you're so much better than I'm at. Will you do it for me? And your please others driver goes, absolutely I will, Alan. No problem at all. But they're also known as the rebel, where I'll say, you need to go clean your bedroom. And you look at me and go, oh, really? I was going to go clean my bedroom. Just because you told me I have to, I'm actually not going to go and do it now. And the more we push a try hard, well, what are they going to do? They're going to push right back. So how we work with the try hard is, come on, let's do the we. And that's where we will see a lot of neurodiverse co-founders come together. Where, come on, we'll do this together to make it work. But we both understand that, you know, you've got your way of working and I've got my way of working and it might clash, but for the most part, we're working towards the same goal, and that's where we can be really successful. So those people who can actually hyper-focus. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to turn into Stephen Bartlett. I'm not saying they're all going to turn into Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Temple Grandin. You know, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. But maybe that doesn't have to happen. Maybe it is sufficient for them to get that job that is a 3-day-a-week job, a 4-day-a-week job. The important thing with that is that we have purpose, and every human being has purpose. Every human being needs purpose. And I think this is where the disservice has been done to many neurodiverse people over the years. Because of the learning difficulties, and I hate doing the air quotes, but that they have, the implication is that you can't survive doing something highly technical, highly important. So you need to go and just do like a manual labor job. As if a manual labor job isn't highly skilled, highly sought after, and very much needed. They absolutely are more than ever. So I think that the more we can work with neurodiverse young people, and because it's a spectrum, so if somebody has ADHD, that does not mean that they are going to have their strengths or their power in the exact same place or in the exact same things or the exact same ways as the person with ADHD who's sitting right beside them. The exact same way someone with dyslexia is not going to have the exact same issues as the next person beside them with dyslexia, because that's just the way it is. There will be things that they will be able to do that the other person can't do. That's going to be circumstantial. That's going to be probably genetics. That's going to be whatever. It's going to come into play. But it's not always going to be the same. So we have to not view these learning difficulties that people keep talking about, which we at Future Proof Knowledge do not believe in, right? We literally do not allow anyone talking about learning difficulties, because they are not learning. The individuals can absolutely learn. They have no difficulty learning. They just have difficulties in learning how they're being taught, which is not a problem of the individual. It's a problem of the process of teaching. Now, again, I'm not sitting here trying to beat the crap out of the education system. Well, the individuals in the education system. The system absolutely needs to crumble. But the people who are teaching, who want the best for their students, who have an ability to teach, who know and have a desire to want to see better outcomes for their students, absolutely, they are fantastic. But they need to be supported to be able to support these students. So the introductions of special education teachers, learning support teachers is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But we also need to explore and look at the ways that we can hone in and try and help these neurodiverse young people figure out what their skills are, where their superpowers lie, and how can they translate that into a career of some sorts. Now, so let's go back to my dinosaur obsession. So I may not be able to operate in the education system well enough to become a paleontologist. Even though I love dinosaurs, like absolutely love dinosaurs, I may not have the learning mechanisms inbuilt that would allow me to go through the process of learning how to become a paleontologist. But is being a paleontologist the only career somebody could have related to dinosaurs? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, maybe Alan has the capacity to be a tour guide at a museum. Maybe Alan has the capacity to become a dinosaur podcaster. Maybe Alan has the capacity to draw pictures of dinosaurs and illustrations of dinosaurs and make comics. Now, that doesn't mean that that will turn into a career that will earn them loads and loads of money, but maybe it's enough of an income to give them a sense of purpose that maybe they could supplement elsewhere. And who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it could turn into something massive. Maybe not. But maybe it doesn't need to be something massive. Like, we're not all going to be millionaires. We're not all going to be billionaires. Like, that's just the way the world works. It's just not going to happen. But if we can start to support these neurodiverse young people, to say, just to let them know they have abilities, they can learn, they have opportunities available to them, but we'll work with them. We won't tell them what to do, but we work with them to help them create a pathway that they think they might like to go down. And I've worked with many neurodiverse young people in the past who will go down a path and they go, yeah, this paleontologist, this dinosaur stuff, I am going to have a career out of it. And they will give it welly. They will go at it for 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years, and then go, yeah, I'm bored of this now. I'm going on to this thing over here. And they'll move on to the next thing. Maybe that's okay. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it doesn't present challenges. I'm not saying that, it doesn't cause arguments in homes or in relationships. But if we have the understanding of you can succeed in something, you do have purpose, you do have an ability to bring value to the world, that is massive for self-esteem, massive for self-confidence, massive for self-belief. And that then will allow them to maybe explore other opportunities that they would never have explored before because they've had success in an area. They have had a sense of, I did that well. And that's absolutely massive. And then the societal impact of that is we maybe have less people on social welfare. And again, this isn't criticizing people on social welfare, but if somebody's working versus being on social welfare, they're contributing tax money as opposed to using the tax money that's there. And the more people we get working, the better, because they have a sense of purpose. So I think the likes of, it's great to have people like a Richard Branson, like a Stephen Bartlett, like a Temple Grandin. Like, it is absolutely brilliant to have these neurodiverse people be so successful and show that there is a path to success. But for those of us living and working with people who are neurodiverse on a day-to-day basis, what we don't want to do is set an expectation that where they internalize and go, if I don't, and going back to the be perfects, if I don't become successful as Stephen Bartlett, if I don't become as successful as Temple Grandin, if I don't become as successful as Richard Branson, then I am a failure. That's not what we want. So what we want to do is go, let's give it a go, see how we get on, and let's try and persist with it to a level and for a length of time that will give us a good picture of whether or not this is something you want to do, you have a desire to do, and let's get started on step one without thinking about, right, we need to become millionaires or billionaires. Now, they might go, I want to create a source of energy that is not a drain on the Earth's natural resources. That's a good goal. Well, let's pare it back and let them off they go and see how they get on. They might be successful and maybe they'll change the world. Maybe they won't. That's okay too. So, encouraging the neurodiverse people in our lives, first and foremost, to figure out, where do your talents lie? Where are your interests? What do you love? What makes you go? That's fascinating. And it might just be a computer game. That might be it. It might be a movie. It might be a TV show. Fine. What is it about it that you find so fascinating? And start to explore that. Okay, and once you start to explore and start to hear the elements that actually do make something interesting or fascinating, then you can go, okay, could you move in this direction? Or what about this idea? Or would you give this a go? And start to work with them without forcing, but at the same time, not just letting them go, no, don't do it. No. That's going to help them find a sense of purpose and recognize that they don't have a learning difficulty. They just learn differently to other people, some other people, not all other people. And that is going to encourage people to start to look at, okay, I think differently. So if I look through the lens that I look at life through, what could I change? What could I improve? What can I bring to this world that wasn't there before? And it might be a piece of art. It might not. It might be something greater. But we need these people as we move into the 21st century with the challenges that we have. We need neurodiverse people knowing that they have worth and value and that they have contributions to be made to the world around them. So let's work with that. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed episode 27 of the Future Proof Knowledge podcast. We will be back next week, as always, at the same time on YouTube. Thanks so much for paying attention, and I will see you next time.
FPK, Future Proof Knowledge Podcast. Mind unlocked. With every episode we cast real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky.